Okay guys, we're back at the start of the season. There's a new law change, new cadences that are going to come in from the scrum, new tempos to what we're doing, and interpretation from the referee that will see us go into reacting to the ball coming in if we anticipate the interpretation the way that we feel it's going to happen. When that ball comes in, we need to be into a good squeeze body profile that we can react to the ball coming in, and if we want to put our little chase of 2, 3, 4 numbers after it, or we want to strike and lock and hold, hit channel 1 and have number 8s picking up and running down the field, they're the expectations we'll have from this new scrummage. So we're here with the Scrum Zone machine again, and what we want to do is remind ourselves of the way that we're going to adapt to these new law changes, but also remind ourselves of what we built on last season when we used this apparatus as well. And we're going to address and talk about the things that we felt were going wrong last season with body profile and foot positions, and in particular the effect of the hinge effect in the scrum. So where we had two front rows engaging together and the pressure between them, the up and down forces, and this hinge effect where their feet were being lost grip and the scrum was going down. And we want to address why we think that hinge effect is happening. So that's going to be the first part of the session, and then we'll build a front row and build a technique ready for the back 5 to join the party. Okay, so let's have a look at the scrummage machine. Hydraulics going to be pushing us back, going to be snap shoving, putting all sorts of challenge. So this is just like a scrummage machine, a scrum coming at you. It's going to react, it's going to snap shove. It's not a static sled that's going to hold you up and support your weight and just be a static force. It's going to fight back. There are lots of machines, roller machines, that don't use hydraulics, and they've got the ability to use the bungee systems. But what's happened over the last couple of years of coaching is that the machines are not being used to their greatest advantage. To me, I'm going to focus this first part of the session of getting the best out of these bungee systems and actually having a look at what the problem has been with the build-up of our scrum. So if you imagine this side of the head can represent a sled, or it can represent a machine that's been loaded up with lots of bungees. And I think I'd like to see loads of bungees on how much we can push in, but having too many up and down creates this false support position that doesn't encourage really good body positions. So if that's a sled or a machine that's locked up, we can start to get into some bad habits if we're not really putting focus on our body position by having this support position. And lots of the focus has been on your body profile. So if I'm supported by this system and I get into what I think is a perfect body position with my back square, my head driving up and my feet parallel, I can hold that body position. I'm up on my toes because I'm being supported by the scrummage machine. My legs are flush, I've got a good parallel body position, and I'm ready to scrummage. If I come out of that, but that's false. It don't happen like that. In any part of a live scrum, in any part of the discipline of scrummaging, it's not going to support you. It's not going to allow you to get into those body positions safely. And what tends to happen is that we get a hinge effect. And if I just get to my distance, back to that body position, and I'll put this white line down, and that's going to be the hinging area. And that hinging area is either where we lose our foot positions or we all hinge down because we can't support our body weight. So if I'm in this position with my feet parallel and my legs in line, my toes pointing in line, it's very hard for me to get the best part of my body weight in front of my knees to take on this challenge. For me to be able to do that, to go into this challenge, I'm going to need my hooker to have his non-striking leg breaking it back. And generally, if you look at video, in match video, of even the British Lions and the top international teams, if you look down the channel, you'll see this non-striking leg sticking in the channel, and you'll see your props all with flush legs and flush legs all on this pivot point. And what happens is that on the engagement where we don't have to bind, the hooker takes his non-striking leg back, which is supporting, he steps back to the hinge area, and then we've got 3 sets of legs all on the same point taking on this challenge, and that challenge usually ends up by falling onto the floor because the pressures we're receiving here and the pressures and tendency to either go down or go up are heightened by having our legs all at one single pivot point. Okay, so let's have a look how we're going to adapt and take that pivot point away from it. If we now think about our setup, and we're going to change our foot positions, and everybody in the scrum, including the back 5, are also going to adopt the same principles that I'm going to talk about now. And really, it's about getting a body profile and a foot position and attention to detail right through the body from toes to head of taking on a challenge. So this machine's set up slightly different. We've got hardly any bungees up and down, so I'm really going to have to support it. What I'm interested in is how many bungees can I get on here. Even without the hydraulic machine pushing and snap shoving against you or measuring your drive, allowing you to drive and then pushing you back, there's a challenge to meet in this first part of the engagement. Can we independently have the strength and body design to take on that challenge and increase the load going forward? Keep this vulnerable up and down, control the front row, not lose our foot positions, not have a pivot point, but take on more pressure going forward. So let's just have a look how we're going to try and do that. So my distance is coming away from this machine. I'm going to incorporate we'll get a call from the head coach here of the referee's call, so I'll incorporate the new calls and requirements to bind. But the difference is now I'm not going to flush my feet. I'm going to get a separation between heel and toe to take on this challenge, to increase to take on the forward weight but not fall down and not go up. So I'm getting a separation. So now I've got support. I can get a lot of my body weight in front because this is a separation. As soon as I come back to that square position, I'm struggling for balance. If I overextend it, then I'm in trouble. I'm going to be long on this leg, and eventually I'm going to have to step back. So it's a fine adjustment between heel and toe. So when you practice this, practice it time and time again so that it comes without thinking. You enter into the scrum, you're taking up your positions, you take up your binds, and you know that you've practiced it enough that you've got a heel to toe separation. So traditionally I'll come along to rugby clubs and do these type of clinics, and their roller machine is gathering dust in the corner and it's not being used. Pull it out, set up the bungee systems, and practice your own individual profiles. The same way as the backs are practicing passing to be able to do a passing move, you've got to be able to practice profiles to be able for me to build a scrummage. So there's no excuse. Set these machines up and let's meet the challenge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get my distance right. I've got to take that bind. I've got my heel to toe, and importantly I start to splay my toes out. And the reason being that will open up my hips and access my core stability, access that real strength. So my feet are going to be the anchors, my power muscles, my quads and my glutes are going to drive through this solid part of my body as I lock it up, and then I'm going to develop certain shapes, whether I'm a tight head or whether I'm a loose head. There'll be certain attention to detail in the upper body which we'll focus on in different video sessions. But splay the feet out so I've accessed my core stability. I've got my heel to toe. Alid, if you give me my call.
Crouch.
Crouch.
Bind.
Bind.
Set.
Okay, I need to adjust that and get a little bit closer. And obviously the challenge, I didn't go down. It's very vulnerable to go down, very vulnerable to go up, but there's not enough weight on here. So if I had a bungee, so I had a couple of pounds. So when you get your bungee machine out, if you're doing 6 bungees this week, in 6 weeks time we want to be doing twice as many. We want to be doing 12. It's all about how many pounds force can we drive forward but still control that head. So heel to toe, slightly closer this time, and now I'm really starting to pull my knees in, open up this core strength, and pushing my weight against my feet. And as my feet are splayed out, it's a bit of a dovetail effect. I've really got pressure both ways because I'm focusing my weight down into my feet and gripping the ground. And if I get good flexibility, you see I keep a lot of foot on the ground as opposed to being back square and coming up on my toes and then losing that grip. So losing that grip because you haven't got splayed feet, coming in a line on a pivot point is all of the problems why we've been seeing these packs go down. So regardless of the pre-arm bind, if we don't address this problem, we're still going to end up in the same place. So again, attention to detail, load it up. I put the weight into my feet. My feet. I'm looking for the core. Crouch.
Bind. Set.
Squeeze! And I call a squeeze. And now I'm still hitting that challenge. I need to put some more bungees on. How many bungees can I do? Set a club challenge. See how many bungees you can do. There's only 2 or 3 bungees stopping it going up and down. But how many can you push without losing your feet? Who's the strongest in the club? These are the things. And if everybody practices that, the component that we're now building with the Scrum is far more efficient. Just like all of the passing drills, you do a better move if you've all practiced your passing. Let's practice these profiles. Just going to put another bungee on in this demonstration. Again, I'm coming in, I lock, and I'm really finding that body position. I'm isolating my stomach now, my hips, and putting the weight down into my toes. And as a tight head, I'm going to look to start to complete this equation. I'm starting to get some real muscle attention in my upper body. And the shape that I'm thinking in my mind is about using my lats. It's like a lat spread almost. That's the attention. So my lats and my shoulder muscles are going to grab and contain this cornerstone of the Scrum. If I was this side of the Scrum, obviously the outside legs up again, heel to toe, splay it. I bring the attention in. And now I'm thinking of a most muscular. It's all in my shoulders. I'm going to perfect some binds where I come around and take that bind and keep the elbow high so it's nice and positive. But this shape is a most muscular. It's about the attention, finishing off the equation with that attention this side, and then finishing off the equation this side with that wide lat spread where I'm going to control this side of the Scrum. The hooker is again going to come in with this heel to toe aspect. He's going to narrow slightly. He's not going to be as wide on shoulder width. He'll narrow, but he'll still keep the heel to toe. So we've all got our back leg in a line, and we've got a heel to toe with our front leg. And then the hooker can load up in the same way, and he's going to come into this scrummage where he can drive off 2 legs, meet the challenge, free up the weight, strike the ball, and then come back into a pushing position. So we're looking after the safety of our hooker on that period where he's got to come out and strike the ball. The binds that we'll perfect as we build the front row will be all focused on stopping that separation of the tight head away from the hooker. And we've seen that time and time again in last year's footage where even the international players were getting tore away from their hookers. A lot of it was to do with this foundation, but a lot of it is the focus of bind. As we build the front row, and the video progresses, we'll talk about the binds, of what height they come. Why are we putting focus on the tightness across the shoulders? We're doing that because of certain information that the hydraulic machine will give us. And then in the same aspect, the binds, where does the loose head come? Does he keep his shoulder detached or hidden? The reasons why, and then the reaction from the hydraulic machine. So this start of these videos are really putting some detailed focus into what this scrummaging is about, so that we can combine our efforts as coaches and players and interpretation from the referees to create a very sound and solid scrum.
Coach, bind, set, freeze.
That's it. First two that can remember it. Come on, they got to be back row.
Good step.
So stop there now. There's just your mistake I'm picking up on first of all. So your outside leg was great. You was back on there, but just traditionally, because you're used to it, you came straight back there. So what happens now when you come down to that hit? There's no leg left, and then you're going to step in and you're fishing about for a position. So this is, because we're doing this nice and slow, this is an opportunity just to get it right. And what everybody's doing is kind of that. Watch when I do my heels to toe. I know the importance of this heel to toe, because I know that if I go bang, bang, and they've got a good angle, too much, that's not it. Too flat, and that's not it. And both of you are a bit too flat. Get your heels in, and then just drop your knees in slightly and open up this and go into that position. If your knees stay out, you've got no core access. If your knees come in, it tightens all of this up. So I'm really pushing on the outside of my legs, so I can move this way now, where if I was like that and moving, I haven't got the strength or the coordination coming through. So come in, very precise, get into that crouch, take that bind, and then it's really easy to bang in there.
Coach, bind, set,
that's it. Still a little bit too far away. So lads, the attention in this lower body. So some of you are losing, and when you come extended, everything goes flat. The attention in your muscles get lost, and then you're going down. So even with the change of feet, we're still seeing the head go down. So you've got to have more confidence in keeping this loaded, and then just not giving it up. For the moment that I step into my scrum challenge, my abs are absolutely loaded until I'm. You've got to stay loaded all the time. And if you extend and then give up your lower abs, that's when you're just going to flop, and when it's dangerous. Get a little bit closer. Get a little bit of attention into it and a bit of force, and then bang, bring it onto you, and then really force into it. But I've got something left. I've got something left to punch again. I'm not flat out like this. There's something left in my knees. I'm confident to come in and lower and then snap up. So being able to lower and snap up, do all of that, that's the attention. And if it's not familiar about it, you won't get that control in there. So and it's only repetition. I can do it because I've done it time and time again.
You've got to make sure the referees are looking a bit closer this season. You don't really bind into the player that far. You want to get as tight as possible. Then so you're hitting the player itself in a strong position. If you're doing that, you're accepting the hit. You're bringing him to you. It means that he's getting underneath you as a tight head. And as I said, he's getting dominant because he's above you. Just make sure you get a bit tighter to it, a bit closer to it, and have the initial snap into it. With a squeeze. That's it. Crouch. Bind. Set.
That's it. Drive through it now. Have the confidence to drive through that challenge. That's really good. Much better.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
That's it. This is it. That's what I want. Bit of punch. Feet in. Both feet splayed. Come up a little bit up on his toes for my liking, but he tacked it. That was really good pressure. So we're focusing now, feet. We're focusing on this. We're focusing on a thing. And most of you, other than the hits that you've done, the differences with them is that they've thought about the upper body. So you've got complete the equation now. Bang, bang. Think of your body. Am I most wide, or am I in this position? If you're in this position, your shoulders don't don't rock. You're attacking as a loose head or a hooker. And if you're a tight head or a second row, it's most wide. You're not being manipulated. Everything's tight up on top of this this profile. So complete the equation. Now bring your shoulders and body profile right up the top. Are you wide or are you narrow?
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Ah, lovely, lovely. So all he's done is measure that up. All he's done is measure it up and put it all together. That's good weight. That's good weight.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Now it's coming. It's just totally different. You put that last bit of the equation on, bring your shoulders into it, punch through it, and now we're getting back to where we were last season.
Work together.
Okay, guys, so we've done a fair bit of repping now, getting our confidence in that separation of the feet, getting our core stability into the scrummaging, and we've been punching forward and we've been increasing the weight on those bungees. So we're just going to add a few more bungees to it, just one on the inside. Alid, we're going to remain with this vulnerability in the head from both sides now. And we're just going to bring that front row together and focus a bit of on these binds, remembering that we're trying to get away again from this hinge effect in the scrum. Okay, we really want to get away from that flush legs back. We want to get away from losing our footing or not having enough balance in front of us that we're going down or being compromised and pushed up. As soon as we've got that separation, we're independent. We don't need this hookers break leg forward and then stepping back and falling down. We're all got the separation, so we're all independent. When in the next couple of videos, when we build the back five, we will be giving focus to the angle that the flankers push. We'll give in special focus to the particular binds in the second row, all to enhance this front row build up. So when we do this front row build up, the back five is just about enhancing it. And we put great focus on this because the machine, the Scrum Zone machine, has given us information. It's given us a total shove. It's given us a total what can you hold in a snap shove. It's given what weight can you exceed, how far can you drive it, and then what can you lock up. Now when we break it down to the Scrum front rows contribution, that consists of 2/3 of our total shove is coming from the front row. So everything needs to be enhanced. So if we look at some of the videos from last year where props and things are being separated, and we know that that's 2/3 of our shove, we know by the techniques that we use against this, if we get tight binds on top of this foundation, the 2/3 of our shove increases. If we get loose binds and we tend to scrummage independently as a front row, the performance against the machine drops down. And that translates this whole, although it's a mechanical machine, it doesn't cross the line that it doesn't translate. If we can push more, we're more effective on the field, and so these techniques translate. So let's have a look at some of the bind formats. First thing that we're going to start talking about is the distance away. If we start not measuring back from this distance and we're perfecting all of this technique, but we haven't got the right distance, then a lot of this preparation ain't going to be right. What we do want is to be set before everybody else. We want to have our measurements right. We want to appease the referee because we're asking for the mark. We're stepping back to the distance. And then if there's any nonsense from the other side, the penalty is going to go against us. So we're going to be absolutely on the interpretation of the lawmakers. We're going to ask for a distance. We anticipate that after the call to set, that we'll be able to set and there'll be no forward motion until the ball comes in. So there won't be a set and then chasing your feet and then making the scrum stable. We anticipate that there's going to be a penalty at that point. If the interpretation obviously changed, as coaches and players, we're going to adapt. But we're kind of hoping that from that set position, the referee won't look for any forward drive. He'll look for a squeeze to gather the strength. The ball will come in, we can strike and get quick channel one ball, and then we can react with our reaction as the ball comes in. So all of our perfection of these techniques and the squeeze and the ability to push more will then drive and secure that ball, rather than drive the scrummage and make it a mess before the balls come in. So that's our expectation from these new law changes. So if I'm going to get my position right, so I can take on that challenge, I need my guy to mark it. So as the hooker is going to say, please sir, where's the mark? The referee will give the mark, and then he'll physically come in, mark it, and get a measurement that steps back, that his non-striking leg comes in, and his striking leg comes in. He'll strike a straight line between heel and toe. He splays his toes out so that he can get these hips into it, and he takes up that position ready for me to secure a bind. So take your mark off, measure back, non-striking leg, striking leg forward, non-striking leg back. He splayed his toes and he starts to get that dish in the back, and his arms are coming up. So I'm the tight head in first. So there's a lot of question about this, but based on the machine's information, we want to have the tight head coming in first with a high and secure bind. Some of the things that happened last year, you would have seen low and secondary binds. So can I have a loose head come in and just come with a bind across there? We've seen binds like this and tight heads coming in with a reverse grip. If we can just get a shot of that with the video, with reverse grips or even grips over the top, but there was a lot of airspace between here, and the binds were very loose. Go on the top of my shoulder, loose here, and tight heads were squaring themselves up with these poor level legs, and then the effect was that he was getting ripped away and pulled away from his tight head. So this gap between here got compromised because of the loose bind and not the proximity to the tight head. I'm coming in, and the first thing is that I come in with my heel to toe, and there it is. I'm striking my heel to toe, and my knee is just on the outside, but I'm supporting this striking leg. So when he does strike for the ball, my leg is here. I'm not out on the outside of him. He's striking for the ball, and the second row coming through. We're also going to talk about the binds in the second row to prevent this right-hand second row coming through and disrupting this this angle and this coming together of the tight head and the hooker. Remember, that's 2/3 of our shove. We don't want a second row coming in and compromising out. We don't want the flanker pushing the backside out, second row coming through and losing my bind and the hooker being piled away. So we can come in nice and tight. We're going to open the door and let second rows come in. We're going to close in, but my bind's coming up high and tight. Even with the modern jerseys, I can use a technique of getting my thumb into the piece of cloth and I lock in nice and tight. I'm looking for the hooker to secure the square of the body, and then I'm pinching my shoulder out. Now I've not compromised my body position whatsoever, and then on the call we can give us the call.
Yep. Crouch, bind, set.
And then we're ready to set, and we both come in. Break. We never lost our feet. Our feet were in a perfect position to support our body profile, and we were immediately in a position to take on a challenge. Squeeze into the dip, into the hole, really pull that together. It's challenging the squeezes as well as being reserved, ready for our drive. We see the flash of the ball come in, now 2, 3, 4, or now and drive again will be the cadence that we're looking for. It's on the square, the shoulders, absolutely. There's a rear leg and there's a front leg. There's no single pivot point. They're both independent. They can both get their torso in front of their weight for that sat position, and then sink into this profile, supporting each other as tight as they possibly can across the shoulders, because we know that this is 2/3 of our shove. Okay, so the loose head's coming in, and the loose head's not going to pop the shoulder here. You can see that we've got the tight head here, creating a nice square tight corner. That's where they're going to restrict the loose head. These becomes the cornerstone of the scrum. The loose head's got to challenge and take on this powerful side of his body. The hooker's going to be contained here with the pressure after he struck the ball with his shoulder coming through, and then the tight head is going to have a restricted view where he's going to be challenged to come in here and be retained. If it gets a separation and that hole becomes too big, then tight heads can come through and really compromise that position. So again, I've seen a lot of this last season. Flush legs, loose heads coming in first and separating the shoulder, and and leaving a big gap, and I really don't know why that was being coached that way. So what I want to do, there's a nice high bind here, so I can come in nice and low. I still got an early bind, my arm's really close to the back of his body, and I've got my heel to toe, and my shoulder remains under, and we keep this window restrictive to contain the attack from the tight head. So on your call.
Crouch, bind, set,
Squeeze! Do that scrum. I think you measured back just a little bit too far there.
Yeah.
So come back, remember we're going to take up that challenge. This is about how many bungees can you take. So tight head, get that hit nice and secure, get your knee on the outside, get this leg up a little bit, and then separate by heel to toe. So we just want to bring this leg forward a bit. Okay, Lucy comes in. If we can just get a shot of the video to the back bind, have a look at the formations of the feet. Non-striking legs back, there's a bit of a crisscross pillar of strength here. The striking legs forward so he can release the weight off. He can work on the hip on two legs, then he can release the weight off and strike. We've got a heel to toe effect working on both legs. We've got a heel to toe, and most importantly, we've got this knit knot formation across here, which is high and keeping this nice and tight. 2/3 of our shove, of our total performance, comes from the front row. Our second row formations will be to enhance this. Our angle and drive and formations of our flankers will to be enhance this. Our control from the number 8 will be to keep the control of the whole scrum and the cadence accordingly. So this is a lovely setup. Let's get into our call.
Yep. Coach, bind, set,
Squeeze!
good.
Break! Here we go. The first part of this video completed, and the first build up of the front row. We got much more to layer in. We got lots of critiques and perfection to that, and there's still a lot more to that first element that we can layer in. But it's about getting the foundations right. It's about coordinating them with the new law changes, and it's about really putting some specificity and effort from the players, that we get the three elements of our game coming together: refereeing, coaching and playing. It's been suggested by some people to me that this separation and grip that we need on the ground is not needed at the surfaces at the higher levels. I don't agree with that. Even whether it's a clean surface or an artificial grass surface, the principles of gripping with your feet with the heel to toe, the principles of being able to support yourself with the right extension, and all come in as factors. So I don't agree with the fact that just because the surface is right, we can now come up with flush legs, not supporting ourselves, with a hooker breaking back, stepping back into these pivot points and not end up on the ground. I don't accept it. Mechanically and performance-wise, against something that measures and drives against you, says that it doesn't work. Okay, so boys, thanks for that session, and hopefully we'll do a few more and complete this whole solution of a scrum.
Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. We hope you can join the exchange and bring your team together.